Good morning, class. This is Mr. Butler. The purpose of this video is to help guide you through the Think, Pair, Share assignment for Chapter 2 in Of Mice and Men. A couple things. One, some of you gave me some helpful feedback about the format, about the handout the first time. So I've changed some of those formatting elements. If we can look at this, this is what the TPS looks like now. It's a little cleaner. Basically, I'm redoing them. So you are going to find 3 quotations for this side of the question and 3 quotations for this side of the question. You're going to notice that the boxes are really small, but when you copy paste your quotes in there, they'll expand to fit them. And then we have the AIM question down here that we're going to be answering today. To what extent are George and Lenny accepted by other characters at the ranch? So chapter 2, if you saw my video, which I would really encourage all of you to go back and watch. It's a little long. It's in 3 parts, though, to help break it up. Basically, what I did was I read the entire chapter, analyzed it, looked at literary elements and important characterization, and the main action of chapter 2 is that George and Lenny arrive at the bunkhouse, and they are introduced to many different characters, and the different characters that they meet welcome them to different degrees, and some are nice and some are mean, and we're going to look at 2 contrasting examples today. So let's go back to the TPS. That's the purpose of this TPS. You want to find 3 pieces of evidence that show how George and Lenny are welcomed and accepted, and 3 pieces of evidence that show how they are not. And depending on the characters, they're going to be treated differently. One new aspect of this is the assessment criteria. You've seen this assessment criteria before. We have a conclusion that states just how much George and Lenny are welcomed by using a to what extent word. Some of you you didn't remember what the to what extent word, so I included them here. So as you form a conclusion about the chapter as a whole, you want to think overall, how much were they welcomed? Completely, not at all, or somewhere in the middle, and that depends on the evidence that you find, and that's the point of your conclusion. Make sure you're providing at least 1 piece of evidence for each side, and you need to explain by justifying how that evidence shows how much they were welcomed. So make sure that you're explaining your evidence as well. So let me show you an example from the text of a piece of evidence showing that George and Lenny are not welcomed, and this has to do with Curly. Okay, Curly is the boss's son. He is married to a woman who also lives on the ranch. You're going to be introduced to her in this chapter as well. Curly comes in the bunkhouse, says, "I'll try to catch him," said Curly. His eyes passed over the new men, and he stopped. He glanced coldly. So this, he's looking at George coldly, which is not a particularly positive adverb to describe Curly's look. And then at Lenny. His arms gradually bent at the elbows and his hands closed into fists. So here we've got a visual description that shows Curly is being characterized as pugnacious. Pugnacious, if we skip down to this word here, is a vocabulary word that means someone who's ready to fight. He stiffened and went into a slight crouch. His glance was at once calculating and pugnacious. So Curly, he's making fists. His body is stiffening. He looks like he's ready to fight. This is not a very welcoming greeting. Curly is not. I would say this is great evidence to show that Curly is not welcoming or accepting George and Lenny. You, the new guys, the old man was waiting for. The old man being the boss. "We just come in," said George. "Let the big guy talk." Now remember, George is not allowing Lenny to speak because of Lenny's issues. He might cause problems, so Lenny is supposed to keep quiet. Lenny twisted with embarrassment. George said, "Suppose he don't want to talk." Curly lashed his body around. "By Christ, he got to talk when he's spoke to. What the hell are you getting into it for? We travel together," George said coldly. So Curly is not being very nice. He wants Lenny to speak. Curly doesn't understand that these 2 men have a bond and a friendship and a relationship and are together because that's so odd. That's so unusual for men who would be traveling and working alone, it seems, in the book. So what we're going to do, this is great evidence that shows that they're not being very welcomed or accepted at all. We're going to copy, and we're going to go over here, and we're going to paste. And then we've got this exchange with Curly right here. And I'm not going to do anything with it except say that it came from page 5. So you should be able to see in your PDF reader up at the top, it tells you the page number. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to explain or justify or anything, because when I explain my evidence, I'm going to do that in my written response. So that's one piece of evidence showing how they are not welcomed or accepted. Let's skip down. Let's meet Slim. Now, obviously, I'm skipping a lot of the text here. You want to read all of it yourself, or if you want some help, check out my video. I read it to you out loud. And I'm going to make another video for Chapter 3 today. And I'm going to post it tomorrow. So you're going to have plenty of guidance from me to help you, because that's what these videos are all about. They're about helping you. All right, so let's help you by looking at this evidence related to Slim. I'm not going to get too much into Slim's characterization, but boy, does Steinbeck really like this guy. He goes overboard here. He basically describes him as a prince, and he's very well respected by the other men at the ranch. That's one of the questions for the Chapter 2 questions assignment that should have been completed already. So here's Slim. He smoothed out his crushed hat, creased it in the middle, and put it on. He looked kindly at the two in the bunkhouse. Oh, look at the kind look. Curly has a cold glance. Slim has a kind look. So the little adverbs tell us how the characters are treating them. It's brighter in a bitch outside, he said gently. Pardon the language here. Can't hardly see nothing in here. You the new guys? Just come, said George. Gonna buck barley? That's what the boss says. Slim sat down on a box across the table from George. He studied the solitaire hand that was upside down to him. Hope you get on my team. Oh, that's nice. So he wants them to be on his team. So that shows acceptance. It shows that he's welcoming them. He's hopeful that they're good workers. His voice was very gentle. That's another detail that you can use. I got a pair of punks on my team that don't know a barley bag from a blue ball. You guys ever bucked any barley? So here Slim hopes his two new guys are going to have more experience. Hell yes, says George. I ain't nothing to scream about, but that big bastard there can put up more grain alone than most pears can. Lenny, who had been following the conversation back and forth with his eyes, smiled complacently at the compliment. Slim looked approvingly at George for having given the compliment. He leaned over the table and snapped the corner loose card. You guys travel together? So this is like the opposite of how Curly introduces himself, and Slim is being very kind, gentle, welcoming. So I'm going to put this piece of evidence over here that says they're welcomed at the ranch. Okay, so now we've got two contrasting pieces of evidence, and this comes from page 9. Couple things. You've got a lot of stuff here, but I don't want you to copy the entire chunk of evidence in the written response, right? Just the pieces that really show how welcoming and kind Slim are, right? He looked kindly, so that's one piece you could copy. Hope you get on my team. Let me put these in bold so you can see. That's another one you probably want to copy. So you can see in these big chunks you have little pieces. His tone was friendly and invited confidence without demanding it, right? So here are the pieces you want to highlight in your response below. Down here, Curly, by contrast, glanced coldly. That's pretty negative. His hands closed into fists. He's pugnacious. Here he's yelling at them, by Christ. You gotta talk when you're spoken to, being demanding, right? So these are the micro quotations that we want to be focusing on in our written response down at the bottom. Some of you have been asking me, do you need to find 3 pieces of evidence for each side? Yes, you do. Okay, so I just found 2 for you. You could go and find 2 more. There's plenty of other characters you can look at. You can look at Candy. You can look at Carlson. You can look at the boss. You can look at Curly's wife. And they all offer different degrees of welcoming and acceptance in those interactions. Okay, guys, good luck with this assignment. More videos to come, and thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.